Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. I am waiting for one of my guests to get in the. Yeah, I have two people coming on tonight. Two people. Waiting for my guest to get in the building. She's having a authentication. It's the first time she's used StreamYard, so waiting for her to get in. And I will be joined with the incredible legal mind, attorney Ikiesha Al-Shabazz. She's going to be assisting me with this interview. Uh, but let me just see who's checking in here. Let me see who's checking in. Let's see here. All right, all right. I see you. I see you. I see you. I know I was muted for a second. Just for a second. I was only muted for a second, ladies and gentlemen. But hit the like button anyway, now that you're here. Hit the trying to wait for her to click on the link. Meanwhile, I am joined with attorney Ikiesha Al-Shabazz. Ike, where you at, Ike? Come on up here. Come on up and get on the stage with me. What's happening? I can't hear you. Is your sound on? What's going on?
Okay, now. How about now?
What sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I was muted. My mic was muted.
Okay. So, what we doing is waiting for our guests to get up here. And I don't. They're texting me right now, so I'm just waiting for them to get in here. But Ike, let's talk before she gets in here. Let's talk about. Hello? Did I lose Ike? Ike, what's going on? I just lost Ike.
Yeah.
Get back on camera, Ike.
I'm back.
Okay. What a day! What a day!
What a day! What a day! What a day!
This is interesting. It's so
it
much
is interesting. So I had an opportunity to listen to some of your interview from earlier of the alternate juror. I don't know if you guys have caught that. Dennis, I think you should clip that out of that live segment because it's just kind of embedded and it's a little difficult to find.
Okay, I'm gonna clip that out. I
promise. Clip it out because it was hard for me to find. But she's a typical juror who misunderstands the law and exactly what your role is. And I don't know if you guys recall, there was during Simone Hilton's summation, she made this argument that there were kids outside at the time of the barbershop shooting.
Right.
And I don't recall that being the evidence. And they showed the video again. Even the jurors requested, I believe, that video. I didn't see any kids outside. So what she did was make what's called a safe streets argument, right? A safe streets argument plays on the fears of jurors and causes them to only consider the fact that the streets are not safe and that they need to do something to make the streets safer. It causes jurors not to focus on the evidence, right? Because I hear this juror saying things like, well, I have sons and she's concerned about the community. The problem is, madam, an alternate juror, is that is not your job. When you take an oath as a juror, you are to consider only the evidence in the case, not whether or not you're concerned about the community safety should you find these people not guilty. The other thing it seemed to me was that she went in predetermined that they were guilty.
Hold on, Ike, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. They don't want to get on camera. But ladies and gentlemen, we have juror 409. 409. Let me bring her up here. Okay. Add to the stage. Okay. So now you can direct your energy to juror.
Awesome. Juror number 409. So first tell us, juror 409, were you an alternate or were you a part of the deciding and deliberating jury?
I was an alternate.
Okay. All right. So that's first and foremost. So you did not deliberate with the jury.
Correct? Did not.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us. And we still would love to hear your insights. First and foremost, what is your reaction to the jury's verdict?
I probably, had I been in the room with the final 12, I probably would have hung the jury.
Okay. And you say that because you would have found, or you were leaning towards guilty.
I was.
Now, let me ask you, how did you get there? How did you get to leaning towards guilty when you did not deliberate?
Well, there's some information that I've received since the verdict has come in that kind of changed the dynamics of what I was getting on my end.
Mm,
So I don't know what the complete orders were, and I'm told that there were some things that kind of changed because I've talked to some of the jurors, and there were some jurors in the room who had to be guided a little bit more so,
mm.
or coerced or whatever. I just know that there was not a complete guilty, and that the ones who were holding out kind of gave in to those who were wanting to move forward with the guilty plea. So, or a guilty verdict. And so I know I wouldn't have been alone in the room. I do know that. And so I feel better about where I was standing before the end came. Um, so based on the evidence I was seeing all the way up to the moment of closing, everything that was submitted, I was sensing that I would move toward the guilty until we deliberated and came to that final conclusion. So that's where I stand. That's where I stand now. That's where I stood before they came to the end, and or when they came to the end, and how I feel now. I don't know that I would have been. Um, I don't know if I would feel any different than where I stand right now.
Are you surprised by the verdict?
I was very surprised.
So let me ask you, Juror 56 has posted online, and he's revealed himself and that he was the foreperson.
Yes.
Given his personality, do you feel like maybe he, you used the word coerced, so I'm going to use your word. You feel that maybe he coerced jurors to a not guilty verdict?
I wouldn't say he coerced. If there may have been more than one that was siding or who was moving in the not guilty stream along with him, that might have been a part of that. So I can't say, but
So,
I do know that there were others who were not, who did not feel that they were not guilty.
so do you feel like you went in, or you maintained an open mind throughout the entire trial? The entirety of the trial sounds like you had already made up your mind at some point.
I started probably coming closer to a conclusion toward the end as more evidence, real evidence, started to produce itself. It's hard. It's very difficult to keep to go in one direction or the other. So you're asked to stay in the middle, right?
Right.
You're asked.
You're asked to know. You're not asked to stay in the middle. You're asked to keep the presumption of innocence at the forefront.
You are correct.
Right. So these defendants were supposed to remain innocent unless and until you were so convinced by the quality of this evidence that they were guilty. So are you telling me now, or are you saying now that you were so convinced in by the quality of this evidence that you had no reason what to doubt? Or maybe a conversation would have opened your mind a little bit.
I think so. I think that I didn't have opportunity for conversation, one. And
Mhm.
two, I think as we came to the end and the closing arguments, um, I think I was pulled more so that, and I think all jurors would agree to this, that you had some sense of how you were going to move in the beginning, whether it was guilty or not guilty.
Ooh.
And so at close, that's just, and I'm being transparent.
And I appreciate that. Yeah.
And so that's where it got me. Closing got me to how I was going to move until we began to deliberate. And
Okay.
so, again, that's where I was when it ended, when it came to an end, and where I would have been had I been one of the 12 until
Okay.
conversations had happened.
So I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Let me throw one in there.
Go ahead.
You had asked a question earlier, Ike, about the closing arguments. Juror 409, What did you think about DA Simone Hilton's closing argument rebuttal?
I think her closing argument rebuttal was probably convincing enough for me, to the point, when I say convincing, it probably impacted me enough that I could come to my beginning decision based on her close and based on the notes that I had taken and the evidence I witnessed. And I think earlier when I was on, I told you you had a pool of 16 people coming from different walks of life. And to know now I wasn't the only one where thinking the way I was thinking, it makes me feel better about saying or stating what I stated early on. I think there was enough evidence, in my opinion, because I'm only one, to come back with, and not having, again, the discussions, and not having whatever those final orders were for the 12, to still stand with the guilty verdict. And I will stand by that.
You're referring to the jury instructions.
Pardon me?
You're referring to the jury instructions.
Yes, there were some things that the 12 were given that the full 16 panel did not have.
Do you know what that was or related to?
I can't be succinct in stating that, so I would prefer not to even try to state it. I am pretty sure that Juror 56 would be able to tell you what those were.
I'm sure too. What is your impression of Juror 56?
I like him. I don't have any issues with him. He's a pretty cool dude, and so again, intelligent. Again, I don't have any issues with him. No problems with him at all.
Well, you're not aware of the note that was written.
Let me also say this. Like, I think there is presumption that we all knew each other's life. We were very personable in the room. We became a family in the room. Let me say this, that did not happen. Up until the day of deliberation, I did not, outside of knowing what Juror 56 did for a living, I learned some things about him up until the day of deliberation. I didn't learn until the day of deliberation. So at that point, we're all separated. The alternates are separated.
Right.
The jurors move forward. So again, we did not have a personable life, all of us. And there may have been a couple who got close, but as far as knowing each other, no, we didn't know what each other did. We didn't know what the profession was. We didn't know a whole lot about each other.
Well, you weren't prevented from knowing each other. You weren't prevented from like hanging out and going to movies or anything like that, were you?
Not at all. But you have to take into consideration that if others know that you're hanging out like that, then you'll probably assume that you're talking about the case, correct? So if it came down to the if we had to be sequestered, right, they would separate us all because they would not want us in the same room talking to one another about the case. I would assume the same thing about our personal lives. We probably shouldn't hang out together or converse, and you can talk to any of them. They'll tell you, outside of the one other juror that I know who lived in my neighborhood, we didn't hang out. We live in the same neighborhood, but we didn't hang out. We didn't call each other outside of maybe riding into jury duty with them. That was it.
So how coincidental is that you live in the same neighborhood?
Well, they picked people from different different parts of Atlanta, so, or Fulton County. So it was real ironic that we discovered that, and we did not know each other before then
Mm.
until we said where, the areas where we lived.
So let me ask you a couple questions about the trial. What was your perception of Judge Glanville, and what did you think when you showed up and he was not there?
A little bit shocked,
Mm.
surprised. What would, of course I know now why he wasn't there, but and I don't know the full details. I'm going to tell you all something. You hear my voice now. It's impacted only because I'm tired. I'm tired of this case. I'm tired of this whole trial. We're literally mentally, emotionally, and physically tired. And so it's hard to just keep talking about it. And
Yeah.
I did accept the opportunity to say something, to be able to speak or share my view or how I would have voted during the
Deliberations.
deliberation process. I'm sorry, I got distracted during the deliberation process, but I don't have anything negative to say about either one of the judges, in that I respect them both. As a juror, I think there was more expected as far as to be treated like we were important enough. That's what I have to say about both judges. When you ask people to give up their time, a whole year plus out of their lives, because you have to come back to the voir dire process, to the selection of jurors, the dates you have to report in before an actual jury panel is selected, all of the time spent away from your jobs, and some of us do important work. And so when you think about all of that time, you have to realize that we don't feel that we were treated as important as maybe some others might have been. And
I couldn't
so,
do it. I'm sorry.
pardon?
I couldn't do it.
Well, we didn't know what we were getting into, to be honest. We didn't know. And so when you don't know, I understand now why people don't want to serve. And I was told, that people don't want to serve. I'm thinking, why wouldn't people want to do their civic duty? And I think if the jurors are respected a little bit more because we are doing our civic duty, I understand this was going to be a long.
How long did you expect the trial to be?
Well, initially we said 6 months.
Okay.
Initially.
I don't think people knew that. I don't think people were aware that is what the prospective time frame was told to the jurors. I don't think people knew that. I didn't know that.
Quite honestly, I did everything I could to get off of this trial, because then 6 months turned to a year. By the time I had to go through the voir dire process, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. By the time I got ready to go through that process, all I could think about was my prior injuries, my inability to sit for long periods of time, having to take medication for pain, things of that nature. And I wasn't the worst person in the room who had issues. And
Can you
so,
talk about that? What do you mean had issues?
there are other
jurors. The room. Right.
Yeah, there were other jurors who were selected for this trial who were worse off conditionally than I was. And so, it made me feel like, okay, was this strategic? Was it strategic on the attorney's part? They all picked us, so they knew. You had to know that many of us had issues. And sitting for long, you're not just sitting out there on a jury bench or in the jury box. You're sitting back in the jury room when you're not in the courtroom. So you have to find creative ways to exercise, to get what you need while you're in the room. And so while you're sitting on this particular trial, so that's just something for future jurors to think about.
Well, there might be another trial coming. So what is your
I
message to
don't think
prospective future jurors for the YSL Part 2 trial? Maybe they won't be so inclined to serve.
Yeah. I mean, I hate it for them, but that's something to think about, not to get away from doing your civic duty, but to consider what you need to do. And that's why I said be creative in how you get your exercise. Think about what you need if you're ever selected. What would it take for you to sit on an extended jury panel for another trial? You have to think about those things. I don't think I'll be selected for a while. Probably not ever again, but
Well, I don't know.
I think you give 4 to 6 years before they call you again, something to that effect.
thank you. Hopefully I'll be out of it
Something like
then.
right. Well, wherever you go, if you vote, if you have a driver's license, you register your car. That's where they pull voter registration from. These things. So wherever you go, they gonna get you.
Right.
Let me ask a question. I wasn't sitting in those seats. Were those seats cushioned?
Yes, they were comfortable.
Oh, okay, all right.
Seats are comfortable, so you do have comfort. And they tried to make us as comfortable as possible in the back room, but when you got a box, and 16 people breathe in the same air. Yeah.
Can I ask you this? I know you may not want to answer, but can you tell us what piece of evidence was the most convincing for you, that led you to the point where you were ready to vote guilty?
I would say, and I know others will disagree with me on that the video where Mr. Stilwell was charged for the Drinks murder. I've looked at that video numerous times, and I still, unless someone else is able to show me something that I didn't see, or feel that was not convincing enough for me, that video at the light where Mr. Drinks was killed, that video, as well as the video, not the video, but the pictures of the vehicles added to that where they cleaned the vehicle, where the vehicle was cleaned after or before they were arrested or whatever. But those pictures connected with that probably helped me come to a somewhat of a conclusion at that time.
Did you consider at all, or what was your impression of the fact that there were several defendants that were not there when you returned one day? Did that at all have any impact?
You wonder, you're told, don't be concerned with it. And so you have to recognize, and those who have watched this trial from day one, people who are watching limitedly. You're not in the courtroom, so you're not having to focus in on all of the information that's being presented, whether you feel like that's repetitive, that's information that we've heard before, or you feel like you're wasting time. You're getting so much information, and you're having to take notes from that, and you're having to hear lyrics and music that your ears are not inclined to. You're getting so much that a lot of it becomes convoluted, right? And so I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought just
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
I have a question. Detective Viverito, who came in towards the end of the trial, she was asked a series of questions. When you heard talk about this missing Richard Millie watch, which was almost $500,000 watch, did you not have a concern about the credibility of that particular witness, and because she was the last one that held the watch. What was your thoughts about that?
I did not have any concern about the credibility of the witness based on the watch. I felt like the continued questions regarding the watch was smokescreen. So I displaced that. It's like, for me right now, that was not important, because if I had my notes, I would be able to tell you, why do we keep trying to focus on the watch? What's the real issue? You know, is it, if somebody stole the watch, you know, let's do something else with that down the road. But that's not what this trial is about. It wasn't about that watch. And it wasn't, for me, it wasn't about discrediting a witness, because she wasn't the only one questioned about that watch. So
What about?
either she stole it, or somebody, you're trying to say somebody stole it, but to me, it's like you're taking me off focus. So I completely
You thought it was more of a distraction.
It was a distraction for me, yes.
Yeah.
What about the affidavit that Detective Investigative Viverito swore out, and it was actually not, what she told the judge in the affidavit to get the warrant to do this, the wiretap. It wasn't. She wasn't being honest in that particular affidavit. Did you have an issue with that when I want to say Doug Weinstein brought that up? Like, did you have a concern that she might have lied to get a search warrant to listen to the call?
I'm not recalling what you're stating. It's not that you're not stating it correctly. I'm just not recalling that particular point.
Okay.
Concerning
Detective Dennis, you remember Detective Dennis?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think about his testimony? And did you have any concern with his testimony and him being qualified as an expert?
I took notes. I took notes from each of the witnesses. It's like the testimony was what it was, right? I try to focus more in on the actual recorded videos, because you have the individuals in front of you more so than, because my first thought was, how are you recalling, something from so many years ago? And so my focus was more so on taking notes from the actual videos that were presented.
To your
Did they
point,
let you keep your notes?
No, you can't notes.
Don't just ask. Just asking. Don't just asking. Usually they don't, but this trial is so wonky. You never know. You never know.
Did they take your phones?
When they went to deliberation, I believe they had to give up their phones.
I'm sure they couldn't have phones in the deliberation room.
But you had your phone
when?
During the trial, yes, we kept our phones.
Okay. No little snap. No snap. No, none of that.
No. Didn't want somebody asking me and I have to lie about it.
Right. It was something I wanted to ask you. Oh my God. Go ahead, Ike. Yeah, I'll come back to it.
Okay.
I thought this time was about Juror 56.
Juror 56? We could talk about Juror 56 a little more, because I'm of the impression, and I haven't not known him, but just from the clip and from the fact that he was in fact the juror who was concerned with the extended length of the trial. I believe towards the end he expressed some concern. Was that something that was only his concern, or was he speaking on behalf of the jury? If you're even aware, maybe you weren't aware of that. He had wasn't he the one who sent out a note to the court about the length of the trial, how much trial was going to be left, whether it was going to be weeks or months, and he was concerned
Yeah,
And
I didn't learn of that until the end.
okay, so that wasn't a jury concern. That was just a juror concern. Just him.
He might have been more strongly. Um, he probably had a stronger feeling than most of us. But I can say that many of us in the room were tired,
Mm-hmm.
and we were ready for this. You know, we've been over it like months ago, and
You
so
think jurors may have caved because they were so tired? Maybe they just didn't have the constitution to fight for what they thought should be a guilty verdict?
if you ask my opinion,
I do. I'm asking.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely, yes,
Mm. And you feel like you wouldn't have caved.
absolutely, I would not have.
Okay. So, as I'll tell you, as an attorney, one of the things that I do ask jurors during voir dire or voir dire, however you want to pronounce it,
Right.
is whether or not you are the juror who can withstand the pressure if the vote is 11-1 and the hour is late and it's Friday at 4 o'clock, and 11 people are looking at you like, we want to go home and we don't want to come back. That pressure is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And so knowing I guess, the personalities of the remaining jurors or the deliberating jurors, you feel like that they just didn't have enough stake in the case to put up that resistance.
I think so.
Why do you think that is?
Because I know who, only because I know who was not rolling with the not guilty verdict.
Okay.
I I honestly feel like they had to, like, they were over it. They were tired, and I don't, if they could have, if they had some stick to itiveness, they would have remained adamant. But at the end of the day, I wasn't in the room. I don't know the full reason why they all decided to go with the guilty verdict. So I'm not.
Not guilty verdict.
I mean,
Not
not
guilty.
guilty. I'm sorry, guilty verdict.
You were the guilty verdict, but they
I
didn't
was,
hear that.
yeah. And if you ask me if I could have been the one holdout, probably.
Let,
Probably.
let
I
me
don't.
ask
I
you.
don't. I don't take pressure well. I
Mm,
mean, I'm sorry. I take pressure well.
okay.
Let me say it like that. I take pressure well.
Okay.
Uh,
Um,
okay, so let me
especially,
ask you.
especially if you are not able to convince me what I'm looking and seeing for myself.
Well, the dynamics in the jury room for deliberation is different. I sat on a jury,
Okay.
and and when you have, and Ike pointed it out, Attorney Shabazz pointed it out, when you have people that are pressuring you, they want to get home to their families, and you're the holdout, or you're looked at as an outcast at this point. We know this to be true with the O.J. Simpson trial. That there were jurors that were trying to they were fighting each other. It was blood. It was what, Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
You had to come up with we need to go home. Why you heard what we heard? Why can't you see what we see?
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you a question. There
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of the judge, when you guys had to get up and leave the courtroom because it was a motion being argued, or there were things that the judge didn't want you guys to hear.
Correct.
Did that bother you guys? Because it was a lot of times that you had to get up and leave the courtroom, and sometimes you had to sit in the room when you came in at 9:30 or 9 o'clock and wait for 2 hours before it started. What was your thoughts on that? What did you guys do while you were waiting?
Anytime that happened and we were sent to our room, there was always the question is, what is it that they don't want us to hear? What information are they trying to quash? Um, and so, yes, so you do have a thought. I'm being transparent. So that was always a thought. What are we not getting? What are we not hearing? Because again, We had so many days where we felt like, okay, this was a wasted day. We had many of those. We felt like the days were wasted and there were no substantive information or evidence brought forward. So when you had days where you look like you were moving in a positive direction and you're starting to get information that you can make judgment on or start to move toward a place, there was always a question: what are they not allowing us to hear? If the state was getting ready to present something and the defense saw the opportunity, judge, we need to approach. That's when those thoughts would come.
Do you think that had any impact on your decision to find, not find them guilty, but at least be leaning towards guilty?
No, I wouldn't say, because you don't have enough information when that happens to even weigh it, or even apply it. But there's always a question mark left in the brain. Did something get quashed? Did something, you know what I'm saying? It's
right.
So yeah. So no, it's just not enough to even move. Put that on that side of the question.
So my concern really as an attorney, right, and for prospective jurors, is reaching a conclusion or leaning towards a conclusion, right, after summations, before you had gotten the instructions on the law. Do you think that that's problematic, Juror 409? Because you were already leaning one way, but you really hadn't been given the law. You didn't know what the elements of the charges were at that point until the court instructs you on what the law is. Then you get to apply the facts to the law.
So I will say this. This was my very first and only trial that I've served on.
Okay.
And so understanding how to, you say you understand,
right,
but being able to do it is probably harder. Is harder said than done. I'm speaking for me. Can't speak for anybody else.
Right.
And I guarantee you, I'm probably not the only one. I'm the one who's admitting it. Now, my understanding is when I don't want to tell something that happened that you all that.
Well, tell us. We are among friends. Just you, me, and Ike. That's it. Talk to me.
So this is how I picture something happening, or the deliberation process happening. You go into the room after you've been given your instruction, and you all take an immediate vote.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm trying to explain. Everybody's going to be at one place or the other. And then that's how you begin the process of, well, let's talk about it. Okay, why do you feel this, or why do you feel that? So you talk it through, and then you begin to review and look at the evidence again. You try to see something, or if someone saw something that another person didn't see, that's the deliberation process. You're going through the evidence and you're weighing it, this way or the other. Now, is that the way it's supposed to be done? Probably not. But by the time you've gone through a whole year's process of looking at stuff, and you're kind of sensing one way or the other, I mean, that's what happened with me. I'm just going to be honest. And
sorry, go ahead.
And so again, this was my first case. And that's just, where I got to.
There was testimony by another witness by the name of Montunk or Antonio Sledge. You remember that witness?
I do.
What did you think about his testimony and his testimony with examination by Attorney Love?
I had a question mark beside him, honestly. Um, I think he was um I think he was a plea witness.
A plea witness?
Yes, I believe that's what was
Right.
presented.
Okay, yeah, he was. Yeah, he took a
Uh,
plea.
he took a plea. And
Right.
so there's always going to be a question mark on those type witnesses, because you want to feel that people say what they want you to hear so that I can get what I want. You're dangling a carrot in front of me. I'm the rabbit. You got the carrot on a string. And so in order for me to get the carrot, I got to give in to what you need. But if I came to you from a personal standpoint, these guys, this guy was older. And
Mhm.
rather than this street stuff, I got a family I want to take care of. So I went a little personal on them. I went in a little bit with them because, I think he wanted to be able to get out and take care of his family. I think he had a sick mother or whatever. So um I didn't know if I believed him 100% on the stand, to be honest. I don't believe I don't believe that he was being honest. So I had to put the question mark there.
Okay, and your other, uh, I don't know, Ike, you mute yourself, Ike. I think you understood.
Okay.
Um, okay, so th- there was an interaction between him and Love where it did appear that he was a little uncomfortable with the way she was questioning him, and then you was there for his attorney afterwards. You saw his attorney Wright testify as well, correct?
Correct.
What did you think about what his attorney said as far as it related to the factual acknowledgments that he signed off on for his plea deal? Because there was an issue with, um, did he understand what he was signing off on when he took the plea deal? And
If he didn't understand what he signed off on, he had an attorney who represented him, who should have helped him with his understanding. At the end of the day, that's how I looked at that.
mm,
That's why you pay an attorney, whether he was, paid for by the state or whether he paid him out of his pocket. You don't come to court without an understanding. You don't sign anything without an understanding. And so if I'm trusting of my attorney is going to make sure that I know exactly what I'm signing and that I understand exactly what I'm signing. And if I don't sign it. So again, um, I can't, I don't give him any. There's no credit in my eyes as far as like what he did and what he didn't do. I just feel like he knew what he was signing when he signed it, and he might have had some reasons for signing it. But I don't believe coming to court and trying to change your testimony after you knew what you were signing when you came to court. Um, it was valid for me.
there was another witness who testified, a young lady. She was a witness who was detained. She had to be brought in on a material witness warrant. But she gave testimony that one of the prosecution investigators um, was inappropriate towards her. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
What did you think about her testimony? When she accused the investigator of being inappropriate with her, what did you think about that?
Um, I don't have an opinion as far as that's concerned. What I do think is that I, me as a juror, I think that I needed to stay focused on what was most important than to be distracted by that part of that testimony, because it didn't weigh into, it didn't factor in to the case as far as I was concerned. Now, if she wanted to file some type of harassment process on him, take that to another court. That's how I felt about that. Because if you were harassed and you felt harassed, you should have done what you should do to take care of yourself. But that was not a part of this case. So I think as jurors, we have to try to recognize what, you know, what's part of distraction for us. And so for me, that was distraction.
That's
Would you
interesting.
have found? Do you think you would have found him guilty on all the counts, including the RICO, which basically says that they were using the record label YSL in furtherance of an enterprise to do these criminal acts?
I do. I do.
So what
Uh,
evidence was there? What evidence convinced you on that particular count?
so as I made notes, I was looking for connection. Um, how did this tie in? You'll see it. Well, you won't ever see it in my notebooks, but in my notebooks, again, with all of the padding and all of the extra things we were getting in court, there was always this question for me: how does this connect? Where does this connect? Does this bring us back to Young Thug? Does this bring us back to YSL? How does this? And so, for the most part, and again, I would have to deliberate, but right now, um, knowing that he took a plea deal, um, in essence, for me, says you saw something down the road. I may be wrong about this comment. You saw something down the road and you thought it best you get out now. So at the point that he was no longer in the courtroom, um, I had to then stop, kind of making those notations, right?
Right.
But throughout the trial, up until the point that he exited the trial, there was always how do these connect? And the majority of witnesses brought on the stand always came back to YSL.
So,
Always.
so you believe that they were a gang? Do you believe they were
I
illegal?
know they were a gang.
Do you believe they were a criminal gang, or because your testimony that gangs they're legal gangs,
But
and
that
No,
is not illegal to be in a gang.
it's
It's
not
not
illegal.
an illegal
No,
I'm
gang.
sorry,
not
sorry, I'm sorry.
That's
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's long ago.
yeah, it's not illegal to be in a gang, but they were a gang
Right.
regardless. And what really what really stood out for me was the defense, whether they know it or not, kept acknowledging that they were a gang, but it's not illegal to be in a gang.
Mm-hmm.
So once they connected it to the gang, I'm like, okay, they're acknowledging that it's a gang. Okay, point. And because they did, you can't come back and say YSL is not a gang. Um, Regardless of whether there was an initiation process, regardless of whether uh, you carried a bandana, whether you wore green or whether you wore red. How do I connect? Because I'm not connecting you by your snake and your green. I promise you, I don't know how many other jurors might have saw the color piece as it, it might not have been as important as seeing a YSL tattoo on the face.
So you're saying someone that actually branded themselves? Uh,
Exactly.
okay. Hmm.
That stood out for me. So I didn't give so much credence to color. I wasn't looking at every video or every photo looking for a bandana hanging out the pocket or whether you had red on, because there were many pictures where they didn't have colors on. So the colors wasn't a factor for me. But more so, can I connect you? How am I connecting you? And you'll see those in my notes. Well, you won't see those in my notes, but from
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was it.
When you saw all the prosecutors, the prosecution team have red on, what did you think about that? And do you think that that was a, what do you think about that when you saw them all wear red?
Distraction.
Distraction.
Hmm. Because the whole trial, they dressed as a team. So that's what I looked at. There were days that the defense came in with same colors on. So I didn't try to focus on any of that. That's from my standpoint. Now, others may feel like, well, you shouldn't have done it because, red is one of those colors that anybody can wear. Well, that's the reason why I didn't focus on colors, because anybody can put a color on.
I'm sorry, did the judge at any point come into the jury room at any point during the whole time he was on, as a juror?
No.
Did anyone from his team come into the jury room?
The only person that dealt with us, who managed us, were the bailiff. So those who were used as bailiff.
Okay.
Do you think you were siding with the prosecution because they were Black women?
Absolutely not. Okay. There were many days of frustration and of both sides. So again, I came in there with the thought that I want to hear the information, see what you have, what you've documented as evidence. And I think I said this early on. This was a very emotional trial for me.
Why?
Because I have sons, and there will be notes in my pad. These were little boys. They were just young boys. Why didn't they have a chance? Why are we here? So those are questions. And what I got out of this is to advocate for the children. They were children. But does that negate the fact that they potentially or possibly, I had to put that on the backside and say, could they be guilty? Don't allow that to outweigh you hearing everything. And some of the other jurors will tell you, I was the crybaby.
Oh, really? Tell us about that.
I was a crybaby. I didn't like seeing the video where they were having this little boy throw up gang signs. And it says to me that this stuff is taught at an early age, is what it says to me. And so to see that, it made it emotional for me, because that child, I don't know how old he would be now, or if he's one of these kids walking around, wanting to be a gang member, wanting to be somebody who carries guns. I don't know. But that was impactful for me.
And you think that affected how you viewed the evidence? Because this is a culture, you're thinking it's a culture of violence, and you need to vote not guilty so you can stop this. No?
No.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
What it says to me is, what will you do from here?
Okay.
So I have thousands of thoughts and things going through my head of how I can impact my community. So that I can help save our young boys and our young girls from having to come into a courtroom. Mm-hmm. I used to be used to serve on a board for Advocate for Children over at Fulton County Court. And
go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll leave it.
It was for juveniles.
Okay.
Not for juveniles. I'm sorry, for foster children.
Okay.
So, um, and this trial makes me want to get back to advocating for children. Is the reason why I share that. It's
Were you aware that these defendants were facing life, not even for the less than murder, but they were facing serious time uh, with these overt acts and so forth. Were you familiar, with that? And did you know that Young Thug took a plea where he's on, I guess, probation for 15 years?
no. Well, I know that he took a plea, and I don't know the specifics of either of those who took pleas. My understanding is we came back from a break and we had 2 versus 6. So I don't know anything about the other 3 outside of Thug. All I know is he took a plea. So I have not researched this. Again, I told you I'm tired.
Mhm.
I have not looked up information on what's happened with the other 3. Would I like to know? Probably, but not right now. If somebody calls me and tells me, fine, I can talk about it now. I can look at information now, so I'm not afraid to go search on the internet. But I'm tired.
And let's talk about that real quickly. Now that the trial's over, the jurors have delivered their verdict. How much of this case will you start watching? Like, because things that you didn't get a chance to see, you're going to see obviously the arguments the lawyers made and rulings that the judge made. Not in your presence. How much of that are you going to do post trial? And when? Like, are you planning on doing that soon, or because there's a withdrawal process here that will probably happen because since you spent so much time there. What is your next 6 months going to look like?
Um, I am going to document my experience. So I probably in the next 30 days, we'll probably start looking at some things. But right now, I just want to rest my mind.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Okay.
Well,
Mikey,
I
any
want to
else?
thank you for being here. I'm not sure how much more you got, Dennis, but I definitely need to be getting on out of here myself.
No, no. I thank you for being here, and I thank juror number 409. Uh, Very insightful conversation. Uh, I had to take a moment for myself as well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
We all need a moment.
Yeah, if you were the one in the courtroom every day like we were, then yeah, you need it. You need to rest your mind.
Well, hold on. Before you go, I had to ask this question. Did you hear any chatter or about any individuals outside of the case per se? Did you hear anyone making names up for you guys, like create names for you, like to identify you guys? Because there was
No,
some you didn't hear nothing about that.
no.
Oh, okay, all right.
We have we have names.
Well, I won't tell you now.
No,
Oh yeah, they made names for certain individual made some names for you. So we'll leave that
Mm.
alone for right now.
that's okay. Hey, everybody has their opinion. It is what it
Right,
is.
right. But I just wanted to make sure you guys didn't overhear that, because moving around the courtroom, you had to move around the courtroom, the lunchroom, and so forth. Did you see any of the family members when you were at the cafeteria where everyone sat at?
Yes, we did.
You did. How did that feel for you seeing the family members?
Uh, it felt, in all honesty, the only person I really knew was Jeffrey's mom.
Oh, Miss Betty.
She was in
And
a
that,
wheelchair, correct?
yeah, Susan wheelchair, right? I don't know if that's Miss Betty.
Yeah, and I'm assuming one of the girls pushing her was one of the sisters. So,
Right.
but
That's Miss Betty.
outside of that, I remember someone's dad. I can't remember whose dad it was, but there was a father who was present. Not Thug's father, but maybe Nuts Peanuts father may have. I
How
think
did you how did you know Young Thug's father was there?
I said I didn't. I don't think he was Young Thug's father.
Okay.
I said I
Okay.
think it was Peanuts' father.
Okay. All right.
I think it was Peanut's father because I believe he was a witness.
Right, right.
Yeah, we saw so many witnesses, but I remember seeing him toward the end in the cafeteria.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, on the initial day of deliberation, I saw him in the or the day before in the cafeteria in line getting a drink. So, but I
Okay.
remember witness. So, I that's why I was trying to say it was Peanut's father, not Thug's father.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Well, I don't have any other questions right now. I'm sure I might down the road as I finish a project I'm working on. But
Hmm.
I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you allowing me to voice my thoughts and opinions.
Absolutely. I always give people an opportunity. I have another interview to do, but definitely take some time out for yourself.
Mhm. I would like to hear Juror 56. So, did you record him prior to me coming on?
No, I didn't. No, but
Oh,
I can. If you stand by, I can actually play something so you can see it. Hold on.
okay.
Stand by. Hold on. So you can have like a slight reunion. Hold on. We're gonna give you a little reunion. Hold on. Give me a second. I'm going to share something with you. Okay. Uh, okay. I'll let you hear this in a second. Let me bring you up here. I'm gonna switch this and bring this up here for you. You're about to have a reunion with one of your jurors. Hold on. Let me share the screen. Okay, here we go. You know that face? You see
That's him.
that? Okay, let me show you what he said. Okay. Like I'm filing a report that I was one of the jurors for the YSL court case here in the state of Georgia, the longest court case in the state history. We just wrapped up a few hours ago, delivered the verdict for two of the remaining individuals. A long time, a year and some change. It took us about 4 or 5 days to deliberate, and now we can get back to our normal lives. I talked to my sister not too long ago. I'm the infamous juror number 56, as well as the foreman. And we'll talk more about this court case at some other point. In the meantime, I'm going to relax, get my life back to normal, my regular routine, and get back into friendly skies and travel around the world. And yeah, we'll talk soon. All right. I can file a report that I was one of the jurors for the YSL court. So, what do you think?
Uh-oh. Did I remove myself?
No, I see you. You're here.
Okay. So, yeah. So, okay. I thought he was coming on at 3:30.
No, I never said 56.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
don't know.
I heard you say you had another juror.
Yeah, yeah, I actually do. So what I have to do now is in this live.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate you, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Oh, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on a second. Stand by. Stand by. Stand by. Okay. I'm going to keep this stream up. Well, actually, I'm going to end this one and come back with another one. I want you guys to lock in, and this is just for the members only. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's see here. Hold on. I'm checking my message. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on the next live. Make sure you have your notifications turned on. You know the saying: the way we start is the way we end. Good night.